So our first set of directions, it says number 3, bold cells A2 to L11. So I'm going to go ahead and start in A2, and then I'm going to go all the way down to row 11, and I'm going to go all the way over to column L. And then I need to bold it. So the bold button is located right here. I have my font, the size of my screen increased just to make it a little bit easier to see. So again, I selected a range from A2 to L11 and then I bolded it. I need to underline row 11. Here's the easiest way to underline row 11. Actually click on the number 11 on the left hand side. And then we're going to go right here under borders. Under your borders box, you can click on the drop down menu, and then you have an option of where the border will be. By default, we have a single line that is set up, but if you needed to change the type of line or the type of color, you could change it right here. By default for Google Sheets, it's set to black for a color, and by default it's set to this thin line, but again, you can change it. So all I'm going to do is, because I have row 11 selected, I'm going to click on the bottom border, and it will put a line going all the way across row 11. Now the next thing that they want us to do is they want us to go through and format the widths of columns A, B, and C to 12 and to left align. So this is where we can go through and estimate what the length of it will be. In Excel and in such, they will go through and you can set them to specific widths. I'm not going to get that picky right now. The most important thing that I need you to realize is that we're going to go through and be able to change the width. So we're going to go ahead and bring in A, because you will see there's not a very long line in there, so I have it about to there. And then I'm going to bring in B a little bit. So when I look at the longest line, which is row 24, it's a little bit longer than that one. Same thing for C. So they should be about that width for columns A, B, and C. Again, our directions told us to set to 12, but I'm just going through and estimating just so it's not a lot longer. Now, did I have to highlight the column in order to make the size smaller? No. Now, the other thing you want to realize is if you have your words in all caps, which they should not be, the width of your cells will be different. Okay. Now, we need to go through to set these to left align, and by default they are, except for column A, because column A we have these employee numbers, and employee numbers is no different than, for example, for you to have your social security number. I would never add your social security number and my social security number together, so even though they're numbers, we're going to treat it as text, and I want to make sure that this is left align. So I would click on the align button and then hit left. Same thing has already been done for B and C, but I can go ahead and highlight both of them, and just to make sure everything is set to left, I would just click left to there as well. Now, columns D and E, we need to set to 10, so that one's going to be much smaller. And all I did is I just went between D and E, where I had my two-headed arrow, and I double-clicked, and it makes it as long as the widest line. And the widest line is actually worked, except I spelled it wrong. Same thing between D and F. If I double-click there, it'll make it as long as the longest line, and we need to center those. Again, the easiest way to do that is if I click on D and E together, I kind of have a hand. I select both of those, and then I'm going to go right here and I'm going to center those. And you will notice that my headings, hours, and worked got centered, as well as hourly and rate. If you just click on D and hold your mouse down and then slide over to E. Now, we're going to do the same things for F to L. I'm going to make it as wide as the longest line. I'm just double clicking between each one. Then I'm selecting G, F to L. And I need to set this to right align. So we adjusted the widths to make it fit. And again, the easiest way to make it fit is I always go to the right of the column that I want to adjust. So if I look between E and F, I go to the right of E, and if I double click, it's going to make column E as wide as my longest line. Now the next thing that I have to do is I need to select E13 to L32. So that's I'm going to start in E13 and I'm going to go down to L32. What we have to do is we have to set it up so it'll automatically have 2 decimal places. And why do we want to have 2 decimal places? Well, we're dealing with money. We're doing with payroll. So all payroll will need to have 2 decimal places. So again, I have selected from E13. I don't have my column heading selected. I really started in my cell E13. And then I clicked and I dragged down till L32. What I need to do now is I need to go in and I need to set my decimal places. And here's a button that's really easy to work with. We have decrease decimal places and increase. So I want to make sure that I have 2 decimal places. So I clicked on it once and you'll notice in column E it gave you 3 decimal places. And then I'm just going to click decrease once, so that way the ones that didn't have any cents by default, they were set at no decimal places. But now all my hourly rate is set with 2 decimal places. And that's going to be true for all that I have selected. So from E13 to L32, I have 2 decimal places. Another way to do that would be to go to Format, Number, and then you have different types of formatting that can appear here. So by default, it's going to be set up to automatic to detect, but you could go ahead and go in and format it using more formats, and you can custom set it. Now, this is where I'm on instruction number 9. Instruction number 9 says compute gross pay, all deductions, and net pay for the first employee as follows. So we're going to be going through just in row 13. So this is where we have to understand how do we calculate payroll. So what I can see for Ivana is she worked 35 hours. Would you agree? How much does she make an hour? Say it again. How much does she make an hour? $13.25. So how do you calculate how much she make, her gross wages? Yep, I'm going to take her hours worked times her hourly wage. So I am not going to use a calculator though, and this is how I'm going to be grading your spreadsheets. I'm going to be checking your formulas. In a spreadsheet, we always start formulas with an equal sign. So in cell F13, I'm going to do equal sign. Then I'm going to click on hours worked. I'm really using my mouse and I'm clicking on that cell. Then I'm going to do the multiply, and multiply is going to be the shift of the 8 or the asterisk. So I'm going to click on my hourly rate, which is cell E13. So my formula reads D13 times E13. Then I hit enter. And it went through and calculated Ivana's gross pay. Now, federal tax. I will tell you that the formula that we're going to be using for federal tax is not really how your federal tax is computed. When you look at your paycheck, your federal tax is computed by how much money you make and then how many dependents you have declared. So when you first get hired on a job, you have to go through and fill out a form, your W-4, that says how many dependents, and most of you probably put 0 or 1 on that form. That will go through and determine your tax bracket. On my W-4, I have 2 claimed. And the reason that I have 2 claimed is because I have 2 kids. So the government says I have 2 dependents, so therefore I don't get as much taxes taken out of my paycheck as somebody that doesn't have any dependents. So the formula that they are telling us for this spreadsheet, because we don't have a tax table to go from, they want us to use spreadsheets, is that we're going to take our gross pay and multiply that by 15%. So that's just a general ballpark, but that's not really how your employers will calculate it. So what I need to do is I have to start this formula with an equal sign. And I need to take my gross pay, which is in cell F13. So I'm going to click on F13, and I'm going to multiply that by 15%. Now, what is 15% as a decimal? 0.15. Ariel, did you see where you need to start your spreadsheet and get going? Yeah. Okay. You have to go through and start entering all this stuff in there. Create a sheet. Say it again.
I think I messed up. I'm not as far as.
Yeah, who's your last person? John, Jonah, Ashley, Elena, Sylvia, and Kyle.
Wait.
I have my federal tax for Ivana being $69.56. Did you guys get that? Yep, good.
Highlight them.
No, just click on the cell you want. Click on the row you want to put one above. Click on this cell, the row that you need to add one above. So do you need one above row 3, above row 7, or above row 10?
You need one above that row, right? What row is that?
Click on that row number.
Okay, like the highlight whole row.
Click on that row number.
Just the number on the side.
Okay.
So you have row 1 selected?
Shit, that's what you want, so.
Oh, got it. I couldn't see it. Yeah, right click on it then, on the row number. Nope. Yep. Insert row above. There you go. Social Security tax, we're going to do another formula. That is going to be taking your gross pay. So we always start all formulas with an equal sign. I'm going to take my gross pay, and you're going to multiply that by 0.62%. And if I take 6.2% and put it in as a decimal, that's got to be 0.062. And you will notice that in Sheets, I have my formula up. Notice it's kind of giving me a preview of what the answer would be right now. It's going through and telling me it's 28.75. So once I have that formula of F13 times 0.062, I just hit enter. My Medicare tax, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with the formula. So equal sign, I'm going to take my gross pay and I'm going to multiply that by 0.0145, which is 1.45%. Again, I'm just converting the percent to a decimal. The percent is 1.45, so I entered it in as 0.0145. And that gave me a Medicare tax of $6.72. Remember, if my formula is not showing in the cell, here, you can still see what my formula is right here. This is your formula bar in sheets. Now column J deals with our state tax. State tax on your actual paycheck is calculated the same way your federal tax is. It's your gross earnings times your percent, your withdrawals that you're doing, and then there's a table you fill in. But for this project, we're going to go through and just use a percent, very similar for our state one. So I'm going to do equals, multiply by my gross pay, times 4%, 0.04. Now, what is pension?
Your retirement.
Retirement, okay? So, all of these people have 3% of their gross pay put into their pension. So the formula for pension will be equals gross pay times 3%, which is 0.03. Now, this is where it gets funky. What is net pay?
What you bring home.
What you bring home. How do you calculate what you bring home? We have to take all of our deductions. And the deductions that we have are federal, Social Security, Medicare, state, pension, right? Now, when you look at your paycheck, you would have all of these deductions taken out. Your Social Security and Medicare on your paycheck is going to be called FICA. So if you see something on your pay stub that says FICA, that deals with Social Security and Medicare. The only one that you're not having something taken out for right now on your paychecks is going to be pension. Unless you have a great employer that's starting your pension fund already. I don't really know that that happens too much with high school students. So what I need to do is I need to go through and subtract from my gross pay all of these deductions. So I have to use parentheses. Remember in algebra? Parentheses means what? Do this first. Okay. So really what I need to do is I need to take gross pay and I have to subtract all of these. Okay. So my formula is going to read equals gross pay minus, now I need to do my left parentheses because what do I have to do? I have to add each one of my deductions. So I'm going to click on federal tax plus Social Security tax plus Medicare tax plus state pension, or excuse me, state tax plus pension. Now when I do that, I can't just hit enter because I have a left parenthesis right here without a right parenthesis. So in algebra, I know that this statement, if we were to have to do this in class, you would have to actually add these up and then subtract that from our gross pay, which is really what we want to do. And that's going to be how all of your payroll is calculated. So I'm going to do a right parenthesis and then I'll hit enter. Now, notice we have a problem with our net pay column though, don't we? Not big enough. So we need to go through and adjust that width a little bit because the word net pay is a lot smaller than actually how much we're getting paid. So I'm just going to adjust that one a little bit bigger.
Can't you just use this formula for the rest of them?
Say that again, Caleb.
You just use the same formula for everything else?
You should be able to use the same formula for every single one of them. So Sylvia's way that we calculate her payroll is the exact same as Ivana, right? You remember when we have a formula, so when I go to gross pay, I have in the lower right hand corner this blue box. This blue box in spreadsheets is very, very important and very powerful. That's called your fill handle. Your fill handle allows you to take that formula and copy it over and over and over again. But I don't know about you. I don't want to retype those formulas all the time. Each one of those cells. I got more important things to do. So all I need to do is in my gross pay column, Go to the lower right hand corner to that fill handle so my cursor turns into a crosshairs, and all I have to do is drag down. I have to do it column by column. Why column by column?
Because of the nesting button.
Each column has a different formula. Agreed? Okay. So now I'll go ahead and head over to my federal tax, and all I need to do is drag down. Now, this is where it gets really fancy. Sometimes you don't even have to drag down, you can just double click. And double clicking does exactly the same thing. And the reason it does the same thing is it says, oh, you want to copy it? We'll copy it down as far as your other one. So I can go to my column J, double click on my fill handle, whoop, fills down. K, fills down. L, oops, fills down. Now I want to change this just a little bit. This is not in the directions. We do have column L set to right align already, correct? Well, the other thing I want to do is I want to format L13 to L32. So again, I'm highlighting, clicking in L13 to L32. And I want to put a dollar sign on it, but I don't want to go in and type dollar signs. So I'm going to go right here to format. I'm going to go to number, and I'm going to choose currency. Not currency rounded, because I need my decimal places. And then you will notice that it gave you dollar signs in front of them. I'm going to make it just a smidge bigger so there's a little bit of space. Because that is indicating that is how much money people are getting for their paycheck.
I hope that's not my paycheck.
Okay. Now, also not on our directions, but we are going to be doing together in class, is I want a total. I want a total of my, I'm going to make this just a smidge smaller. Gross pay all the way to net pay. So I want a total on the bottom so the employer knows how much money they have spent. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and type in cell A33 totals. In A33 where I type totals, I'm going to right align it. Why did I right align it? Does it look different from the rest of it? It makes it stand out. Would you agree? The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bold the word totals as well. Now, I am not going to total hours worked. I am also not going to total hourly rate because does it do anything for me to add up what everyone's total rate is? Same thing for hours worked. Maybe if I needed to know the number of hours an employee's worked in a pay period, but usually hours worked is not going to be something I need to keep track of. But a business does need to know what the gross pay is. They would also need to know how much money they have to pay the government for federal income tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax, state tax, pension, and how much they have to pay all of their employees. So what I'm going to do starting in F32 is I'm going to put in a formula. All formulas start with an equal. Now, what I want to do is I want to add them up. But I don't want to go equals and then click on F13 plus F14 plus F15 plus F16, blah, 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 all the way down. That's a lot of clicking and a lot of plus signs. So in spreadsheets, we use something called a range. And a range is a group of cells next to each other that you can just use. So what I want to do is I want to add up, I want to do the sum of F13 to F32. So I just type in the first cell that I want to add up to the last cell I want to add up. And I'm also going to use the word sum because we already determined mathematically when you use the word sum, that means to add. So I'm going to do equals sum, left parenthesis. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can either type in the cells or you can click and drag. I'm most comfortable clicking and dragging because I can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on F13 and I'm going to drag down to F32. And do you see how it's shaded then once I've clicked on it? The only thing I need to do is then put in a right parenthesis and then hit enter. Do we notice anything funky with that number?
Yeah, let's see. There's some. Yeah.
I'll make it a little bit bigger. Do we notice anything? What are we missing?
1181. Or you did. Yeah, you can just use it.
Comma! Right? If there was a comma here, would it be easier for you to see the number that it's $7,879.50? Those commas are visual clues to you. Do we type a comma in there? Oh, good Lord, no. We format it. We want the spreadsheet to do it for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click right there on that number, and I'm going to go to Format, Number, and then I'm just going to click on Number right here. I don't want a $sign on it. I just wanted to put the comma in there. And then I will need to watch to see if I need to make that column just a little bit bigger. So again, I formatted this with commas, not by typing it in, by going to Format, Number, Number. Now, I want that same formula for all of my other columns. Go forth and do it. Saw that you're done. Do you remember some of this from accounting?
Yes.
Good.
All of it.
Good. Yes. So you need to have the sum for federal, Social Security, Medicare, state, pension, and net pay. Do you have to do the formula over and over again? Remember that little blue box? Okay, what do you need to do with that blue box? Yeah, not pull it down. We want to pull it, yeah, drag it across. It'll do exactly the same thing. And by us setting this one here for number, comma, when we drag to the right, it did all of these with number with comma. So it was much easier for me to go through and see. So here's an important thing that I need to know as a business. The total earnings for this pay period was $7,879.50. The total amount that my employees got paid was $5,543.23. Now, I just realized that Lila didn't work 30 hours, she worked 45. Lila. Okay? Change Lila's hours from 30 to 45. Change Lila's hours from 30 to 45. The number of hours she worked. Change it from 30 to 45. Now compare your numbers to mine. Are they different?
Yep.
They should be, right?
Yep.
So right here, we changed Lila from 30 to 45. Because we use formulas going all the way across, if we changed one of these numbers, everything else changed automatically. Now, if you had used a calculator, and on that calculator you had gone through and did the math, you would have had to re-add all the way across for Lila. Then you would have had to re-add all the way going down. Is a spreadsheet a better way to do that calculations? Most certainly. I use spreadsheets a lot for creating invoices or billing because I will plug in the information and I know that the math is going to be correct as long as I have the formula set correctly. You can set Lila back to 30 again.
My number's like a dollar off of yours.
Double check that you don't have the wrong hours or the wrong pay. Then turn the power button back on. Actually, it's still on. Oh, that was.
Well, it's not.
Did you hit the power with your feet? Like where it's plugged into the wall?
So. Oh, scratch
Yes,
the
it
page.
did. Pull out your printer.
No. Still plugged in.
I would make sure it's correctly seated. Use your hand and push it in, not your feet. Now, Google Sheets will have it saved in the last thing that you did. Okay. If yours is correct, turn it into me. You should set Lila back to 30. You said drink or restroom?
Restroom.